Guys, it's Tuesday afternoon, 4 o'clock sharp. We are prompt. We are on time. We're fired up. I'm going to put words in Noah's mouth here because I'm fired up. I can tell by the look on his face that he's ready to go. Noah, thanks for holding it down last week. And I tuned in and I saw that Raphael absolutely killed it, as if there was ever a doubt in my mind that he would fill in. So hopefully I can fill his shoes again and rejoin the show. How are you doing, sir?
Zach, I'm excited, as I am every single Tuesday. It was a lot of fun last week with Raph. Excited to be doing this again with you as well. It's kind of hard to compare just two legends. It's not saying one's better than the other. They coexist. Two legends can coexist. That's what I've heard. So, yeah, man, it's exciting as ever. We are through the in-season tournament, and now we are back to regular basketball. So, I mean, it's not much better than that.
It does not get much better than that, man. So yeah, glad to be back here today. I think we should just go ahead and touch quickly on the in-season tournament championship from Saturday night. My beloved blue shirts, the Indiana Pacers, they got slowed down. Tyrese Halliburton looked human for a change. What do we think about the Lakers, man? This is a pretty suffocating defense when everybody's healthy and engaged. Do you think this is a championship contender if everybody is healthy?
Absolutely. The health has been the big question mark for them ever since they put LeBron and AD together. I mean, the season that they won the championship was when they got a nice layoff of a couple months to kind of get healthy and then able to win a championship in the bubble, which is obviously still a very difficult championship, but having that extra rest certainly benefited a team like them. And then last year, they made the Western Conference Finals and kind of ran out of gas. Denver was playing unbelievable basketball, which is why they won the championship. But I think, as long as they can stay healthy and continue to play at the level that they're playing at, there's no reason for them to not be considered a very serious contender this season. But I think what ends up happening a lot of times is teams in just sports in general struggle to play at their best over the course of the entire season. So a lot of times we see teams play really well early in the year, and then they're not able to maintain that. Whereas other teams that struggle early end up playing their best as we approach kind of the playoffs, and being able to do that is usually what leads to championships. So we'll see. Maybe the Lakers will tail off for a little bit and pick it back up closer to the playoffs. Maybe this will just be a season that they can just kind of stay dominant when it counts the entire time. So they definitely have the pieces to do it. And as they continue to get healthier, they're only getting scarier.
Absolutely, man. And what do we think about the Indiana Pacers? Obviously, they got slowed down. They showed some vulnerabilities on Saturday night. Highest scoring team in basketball, but clearly their defense and their particularly their presence in the paint, they got swallowed up by Anthony Davis, 40 and 20 game. What do we think about the Indiana Pacers as far as maybe their run into the playoffs? They're going to make the playoffs. I think we can both agree on that. But how deep can they go with this defense that is pretty flawed? All right, so I think we lost Noah briefly. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties here. Looks like he is ready to rejoin. Noah, I thought we had lost you, my friend.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi just kind of decided to take a little bit of a break. Hopefully it decides not to do that anymore. But, you never know. Sometimes it just wants to cut out and stop working, which is great, especially when I'm in the middle of talking and keep talking because I don't know that it is taking a break or not. So it's great. But I don't know what else you were talking about, but I'll just finish my Pacers thought is that the offense is great. Tyrese Halliburton's playing incredible, like one of the best players in the league. The defense is certainly a question mark, and I think that was kind of something that, like you said, was kind of exposed against the Lakers, who are a very good defensive team, and were able to slow them down a little bit, but also take advantage of Indiana's lack of defense. If I'm not mistaken, last I checked, they were allowing the most points per game in the NBA, also averaging the most points per game in the NBA, which, works great sometimes, doesn't work great at other times. And against an experienced team like the Lakers, it just didn't work out quite as well. So I think it's something that's a great opportunity for them to grow throughout the season, kind of a learning experience that hopefully by the time the playoffs come around, maybe they've made a couple moves at the trade deadline to bring in a couple extra defensive pieces, so they can just be even more competitive, even more dangerous by the time April comes around.
All right, absolutely. All right, so in-season tournament, final thoughts on it. What do you think? Was it successful? Should they make the move to add an extra incentive other than $500,000, which is chump change to a lot of these guys?
Man, it was a blast. I think the only, there was a couple things that weren't perfect. Sure. I mean, I know players complained during the pool play games about the point differential. The start time for those Thursday games where the Pacers were playing Bucks at 5 p.m. Eastern time was pretty weird. Other than minor complaints like that, I think it was overall a success. It was the first year that will only continue to get better. I think Darvin Ham was the one that said that they should just make it a bigger pot that you can win, more than up it from $500,000 and it'll just get better, which is very fair, very true. So hopefully, as the entire league probably enjoyed this, hopefully that continues to grow and more fans that may not have been as interested this time around will be more interested in the future, so the ratings can get even higher. But man, it's hard to say that it was anything other than a success.
All right, let's move on here. The natives are getting restless. Born King for Life says, let's go. All right, we'll take that as our jumping off point then. From Black, hey fellas, thanks in advance. Rest of season for Zico. Move to the bench sounded potentially okay, but I'm panicking after last game. Obviously, trade value at its lowest at the moment. Yes, you never want to trade somebody when their value is at its lowest. Just send to the wire. Are you dropping Zach Collins to the waiver wire? What do we think about that?
I might give it 2 more games before I do that, but I don't necessarily think it's a bad option unless you can make some sort of trade, just because the move to the bench hasn't resulted in the Spurs winning, but it seems to be really good for Wemby. And I can't imagine after the past couple games that they bring him back into the starting unit. He only played 14 minutes in their last game, which is really, really scary. So if he can, play the next 2 games between 20 and 25 minutes, I may hold on to him just because I think he is a good fantasy player when he sees the minutes, even if that hasn't really been the case often this year. So I wouldn't blame anybody for dropping him at this point, but I'm probably going to give it a couple more games before I really take a hard look at that.
Yeah, agreed. 14 minutes in his last game out and 23 in the game before that. If we're just looking at his fantasy contributions here as of late, wasn't necessarily trending in the right direction to begin with. And then the loss of minutes over the last 2 weeks outside of the top 200 for Zach Collins. Definitely a guy that we can consider dropping to the waiver wire. Agreed on that one. And Killian Hayes, worth a hold until I can activate LaMelo or move on for a full-fledged streamer spot. Ooh, man, what are we thinking about Killian Hayes here? Is this a guy that you want to keep in your starting lineup? I mean, he's outside the top 125 over the last 2 weeks. We look at his last 6 games. He's playing pretty significant minutes, 28 minutes a game, 13 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 1.2 steals, shooting over 50% from the field. Really, his value is really depressed because of some poor free throw shooting. But those raw numbers in general, 5 assists, 1.2 steals, 50% shooting, Those are numbers that I would like to hang on to. To me, I think Killian Hayes is a guy that I'm going to hang on to, and he's doing this with, with Uncle Bogey back in the mix. He's doing this with some other guys getting healthy. So, what do we think here? For me, I'm hanging on to Killian Hayes. Do you agree, or are you going for the stream?
I think it would depend on the stream, but generally speaking, I'm probably holding on to Killian Hayes. They seem to really like having him around in the starting lineup for some reason, even if I think the general consensus among fantasy analysts or general fans, Detroit fans, maybe even, is that he should be coming off the bench, but they like him starting, and the numbers have been pretty solid. So unless there's a really good streaming option, which I can't think of one off the top of my head, that just happens to be sitting on your waiver wire. And maybe the reason I can't think of one is because I'm expecting a lot of the good ones to be off the waiver wire. But if there happens to be somebody sitting there, feel free to drop him. He's not a must hold, but I don't see a reason to drop him at this point. Like, the numbers have been fine, especially I'd say they're better than what we were expecting coming into the season.
Yeah, numbers absolutely better than what we expected coming into the season, with Cade healthy, with Ivy available, and with Ausar Thompson in the mix. So, yeah, Killian Hayes, pleasant surprise this season. Okay. From Chris Durr. Hey, guys, is there any idea on how long Kyrie is out for? Thinking of picking up Exum for either Herter or Aldama. This is one of your favorite guys. No, I almost called you Adam. Noah. So, it's a Freudian slip right there. I don't want to steal your thunder here. What do we think about Dante Exum? Luka, questionable tonight on the second of a back-to-back. Kyrie is out for second straight game. Got a number of other guys. THJ, among others, is considered questionable tonight. I mean, Exum, he had a good game the other night, right? Is he in line for another solid performance tonight? Pretty good streaming option, I would say.
Yeah, I don't really blame you for the slip up. Adam and I are one and the same when it comes to leading the Dante Exum fan club, so that's totally fine. But as far as Kyrie, how long is he going to be out for? He's day to day, but like, there's not really a timeline of how long he's going to be out. It could be one more game. It could be a couple more. But Dante Exum was starting even before Kyrie got hurt, and the numbers were still pretty good. His last 3 games, I'm pretty sure it's been 3, not 4, that he's been starting. The numbers have been really, really good. So he was starting in place of Grant Williams, who we also, like, I don't think that there's a timeline for him either. He's just kind of out. So even if Kyrie comes back for the next game, Dante Exum was still starting and able to put up pretty solid numbers. I think I'm probably going to drop Santi Aldama for Dante Exum, and I'm trying not to just buy the hype on Dante Exum because I'm just really excited that this is happening. But he has been really good in the minutes that he's gotten over the past few games as a starter. I'm just assuming that he's going to at least see rotational minutes when they're fully healthy because he has played really well. At that point, I would probably drop him back to the waiver wire, but he's in the starting lineup. Santi Aldama bumped into the starting unit for their last game. I don't think the numbers were that good, if I'm able to pull that up while I'm looking at this. 20 minutes, 6 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block. So yeah, not ideal for a guy that was in the starting lineup, even though he has had some good games this season. Dante Exum has been really good over the last few games. I'm just going to ride the hot hand.
All right. Moving down the list here. We got plenty of questions. All right. Trey or Maxey, rest of season, I'm punting field goal percentage. Oh, my. I think that little caveat right there has me leaning Trey Young, because the field goal percentage is what really drags that value of his down. What do you – I still don't think it's a runaway for Trey, but if we're punting field goal percentage, I don't know. I think give me Trey in this scenario. What do you think, Noah?
Yeah, it's interesting because if you look at the numbers with a punt field goal percentage build, Tyrese Maxey has been better than Trey this season and has been better over the past 2 weeks. However, if you factor in punting turnovers as well, that changes. And I just think that if you're going to have Trey Young, you're going to have to punt turnovers regardless. And Tyrese Maxey's turnovers have been incredibly low despite his very high usage. So that's just been very impressive for him. I would take Trey. The points are, probably pretty similar Threes, fairly similar. Trey's going to get me more assists and actually more steals, or probably about the same amount of steals, but I think Trey's actually been better at that this year. Man, it's pretty comparable, but Trey does get you like 4 extra assists per game, and I think that's kind of the difference for me.
All right, there you have it. Trey Young. Okay, from Sonic Pals. All right, we've heard a lot from Sonic's enemies, but not much from his pals. So this is nice on a Tuesday afternoon. Any chance Duncan Robinson can hold on to 12-team value when Hero returns? I think there's a chance. I mean, so you're saying there's a chance? Yes. But is it a good chance? I don't know. Duncan Robinson was doing next to nothing when Tyler Hero was available. I don't know. Based on the way that this Heat roster has kind of been back and forth with so many different guys this season, different lineups, I would say there's a much greater than 0% chance. What do you think? No, I kind of danced around that question, didn't I?
Yeah, but I don't blame you. It's kind of a hard one to answer because Tyler Hero's been out for so long, and we just assume that Duncan Robinson's going to go back to the bench when Tyler Hero's back. I think it's a fair assumption. He's been much better this year. Like, not just, the 9 cat value is better. Like, he's just been a better player this year. He's been a better playmaker, found ways to be an effective scorer even when he's not just hitting threes. Like, he's scored in other ways. Like, I think he's just been very good. However, Tyler Hero coming back obviously changes his role a ton. And I think at that point, even if he is a solid player when he's on the floor, the only real 9 cat value he's going to give you is with his 3-point shot. So if you're really desperate for some threes, then yeah, he'll hold some value in 12-team leagues. But I think overall, just the lack of minutes is probably going to hurt him a little bit too much, even if he does play well in those minutes.
All right, from Brian B., longtime questioner of this show. Howdy, Zach and Noah. Should I drop Trey Murphy and Zach Collins, and who to pick up? Schroeder, Josh Hart, Giddey, Gafford, 10-team, 9-cat, head-to-head. So I think, first of all, Zach Collins can be dropped. I wouldn't be dropping Trey Murphy. I know it hasn't been all sunshine and roses for Trey, but he's still finding his footing, still playing about 25 minutes a night, and scoring about 15 points a game. So I think he will be fine rest of season. I wouldn't be dropping him. For the first part of that question, Noah, do you concur?
Yeah, I'm not dropping Trey Murphy. I don't even know exactly what the numbers have looked like overall since he came back, but he did just come back. He's only played a handful of games. I'm probably going to give him 10 games and evaluate the number, and I'm just expecting that to be a player that's worth rostering. He's too talented. He was really, really good last year, even if it is a slower start than we wanted to. He's not a guy I'm dropping at this point. Zach Collins, I think I'm more willing to drop, especially in a 10-team league, just assuming that there's a little bit more depth sitting there on the waiver wire based on this list of players that is available. I would definitely consider dropping Zach Collins.
So you drop Zach Collins, and then what? Who are you picking up? I mean, I think based on team composition, I mean, maybe that can answer your question. If you need some rebounds, some blocks, field goal percentage, Daniel Gafford is your guy. If you need some, I know things haven't not been great for Josh Giddey this season, but if you're looking for some raw counting stats and a high ceiling, I think maybe he might be your guy. To me personally, I think Josh Hart is a must-add right now with Mitchell Robinson on the shelf. He plays forward position. They're going to be thin. They're going to have some guys getting extra minutes off the bench. And he played 31 minutes last night and had a productive game. I think it was something like 12, 6 and 7, 12, 7 and 8, something like that with 2 or 3 triples. Played 31 minutes, looked really good. So Josh Hart to me is a really solid add. He was somebody that was trending up to begin with. Dennis Schroeder is probably the least appealing option out of this group of players. Noah, what do you think here?
Yeah, I think Gafford and Josh Hart are the top 2. The Knicks playing without Mitchell Robinson for basically until the trade deadline, maybe even after that. Josh Hart's a really good rebounder. I think, like you said, like he's going to have to step up a little bit and honestly just provide some extra rebounding. Like they kind of need that. So both him and Daniel Gafford, I'd prefer Schroeder over Josh Giddey at this point. I think like all of my Josh Giddey optimism is basically gone. Schroeder's averaging 7 assists, and that's pretty much all he's giving you is assists and maybe some other things here and there. But I prefer that over Giddey's, Giddey's production, which has been kind of nothing. So yeah, I think Josh Hart or Dan Gafford are the top two there. But yeah, I'm all out on Josh Giddey. I haven't dropped him in the league that I have him rostered. Or maybe I just did. Maybe I just dropped him and picked up Isaiah Hartenstein. I don't know if actually that waiver wire process that went through. I need to check that. But yeah, Josh Giddey's not a guy I'm looking to add.
Okay. There you have it. Out on Josh Giddey. From Cal Chad, what do we make of Jericho Sims' rest of season? Is this purely a short-term play, or could he earn a real role for when the team is back to full strength? I don't think he'll earn a role when the team is back to full strength. I think we can eliminate that possibility. We've seen that story played out. Last season, Sims did start. There was a 14-game stretch from January to February that Robinson was out. Sims started all those games. The minute split was 25 to basically 23 and a half, 24 in favor of Sims, but it was Hartenstein, however you want to say it. It was the production favored him. 5 points, 8.5 rebounds, 1.3 blocks for Hartenstein. Not too much going on for Sims. Very little on the defensive front. To me, I don't think either of these guys is going to be a huge add for your fantasy team. I think they're going to cannibalize one another's production. We saw that play out last night. Sims did get the start as we expected. Sims played 21 minutes, 2 points, 7 rebounds, 0 defensive stats. Not too much of a shocker there. And Hartenstein, 11 points, 8 rebounds, 2 steals, and a block. So Hartenstein is the preferred add. But I think what's going to end up happening is we'll see some more minutes from a Josh Hart. Maybe we'll see some more minutes from like a Quentin Grimes, maybe off the bench. But this is a pretty tight rotation. So all of that to say, Hartenstein, the preferred add. Sims, probably not going to be worth your time to add. What do you think, Noah?
Yeah, I agree. You had the really good tweet about the context from last year that I think kind of gave everybody a nice reality check. And then they actually started Jericho Sims just like last year. And it was like, oh, wait, yeah, no, we were optimistic. We were like, oh, great, this is somebody to add in fantasy. And then it was like, oh, wait, Tom Thibodeau? Yeah, never mind. Isaiah Hartenstein, he's probably he's the preferred add. He's not a guy where I'm going, okay, I need to drop everything and definitely add him. He's going to change the course of how my league is going, and he needs to be on my team. He played 27 minutes. The numbers were good, 11, 8, 2, 2, and 1. Like you said, that's decent production, but the minutes, I mean, even if it is 27, 28 to 20 or 21 in favor of Hartenstein, is that like enough time for him to provide that kind of value like he did consistently? Maybe, but it really limits the ceiling. I think one, Jericho Sims, yeah, he's not a guy to consider. He'll probably have a game within the next few where he has a couple blocks and like 12 rebounds, and people say, oh my gosh, you have to pick up Jericho Sims. But when we saw him do that last year, it just wasn't consistent. And he was barely playing this year before this. And then Tom Thibodeau was like, you know what? I'm just going to throw him in the starting lineup. I'm just going to do it. So yeah, he'll continue to start, but he's not a guy I'm looking at.
All right, moving down the list, another question from our friend Black. Do we think there is any danger of Mark, as in Mark Williams, losing his starting job to, yes, I love this nickname, Naughty Nicky in Charlotte? What do we think here? I don't think there's any danger. I think maybe if there continues to be some recurring injuries and he has trouble staying on the court, maybe could we see Charlotte shift to, I don't know, a 26, 27 minutes for Mark Williams and 21, 22 for Nick Richards. Maybe we see more of a kind of an even timeshare because Richards, we've seen when given the minutes, is very productive rebounder, good shot blocker. What do you think here, Noah? Do you think Charlotte ever moves towards a more even timeshare? Do you think this is Mark Williams' world, and we're just living in it?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a chance it's more of a time split. And I want to say that it kind of has been like that this season, but it can be even more towards almost like what the Hawks do, where it's close to 24-24. I think that would probably be worst case scenario for Mark Williams. I think that's kind of his starting job. Not his starting job to lose. I just think that it's his starting job. So I think as long as he's healthy, he's to continue to start and provide solid value when he's starting or when he's available, excuse me. So no, Nick Richards, I don't think he's going to take the starting job, but he can still be pretty solid as a fill-in, even though he wasn't in their last game.
All right. Yes, and I do love me some naughty Nicky Richards. All right, moving down the list. The Hawks are better without Trey. Thank you for turning in Cathal Doyle, but that is not a question. All right, moving down the list.
Thank you for not making me take the last 34 minutes of our show to totally just give my rebuttal and my disagreement. So I'm glad we're not. No, we don't need to do that. There's other questions to answer because I will take the entire time. Maybe if we run out of questions and there's 20 minutes left, I'll give you my spiel. But
well, no, I was just looking at this. We were just talking about Trey Murphy, so maybe this is saying the Hawks are better without Trey Murphy. And I don't know that.
I was thinking it was Trey Burks, so that's a good point.
Oh, okay.
Which I would agree.
All right. Also about my question earlier, maybe drop Zach Collins and pick up Ausar Thompson. There was a question yesterday that I got on Twitter saying, would you be okay dropping Ausar Thompson? And I said, yeah, probably at this point. Makes me sick to say. And then Ausar Thompson goes out and completely balls out with Jalen Duren and Marvin Bagley on the sidelines. Was that a one-game wonder with Bagley out and playing against the Pacers, or is Ausar Thompson, has he been resurrected from the dead? I mean, is he back now?
I'm optimistic. I'm not saying that it's definitely going to happen, but I don't know if you saw Monty Williams' quote after the game where he kind of basically said that, yeah, I'm still learning how my players play, and I am learning that putting them in space and giving them space to operate is what's best for them. And a lot of people, I think, kind of immediately said, wait, it took you a 20-game losing streak to learn about spacing, and they're paying you how much? Like, it's kind of crazy how bad things have been in Detroit. But apparently they're learning. Monty Williams is learning. So maybe Ausar Thompson will continue to be in the starting lineup. They used him as a roller. He was very effective and was able to still be on the floor enough to give you the defensive stats that we kind of count on. So yeah, I would definitely drop Zach Collins for Ausar Thompson at this point and just hope that Monty Williams has learned and will do the right thing moving forward, even when Marvin Bagley is back. Because in my humble opinion, Marvin Bagley shouldn't be moving the needle on Ausar Thompson's minutes.
Yeah, that is a sad state of affairs when we have to utter those words. All right, from Cal Chad, what is the picture here? I know we always have Bender from Futurama that jumps on for these questions. Is this somebody from Star Wars? Is this Link from Legend of Zelda? I can't tell. Cal Chad, if you're here, let us know who your picture is, man, because I'm genuinely curious. Dynasty Q, context here, question in follow-up, sitting at 24, 38, and 1. Mobley and Ayton hurt, and with weak guards, I was so desperate that I streamed Chris Livingston and some guy named Delano Banton last week.
Rip.
Okay. All right, moving on. This is part one of a two-part question. Is it too soon to sell? And if it isn't, of Jalen Green, Suggs, Triple J, and Max Strus, who do you sell, and can you give a ballpark asking price I should shout for? There's a lot to unpack here, Noah, and since you are the Dynasty guru here around the NBC hallways, what can you tell us?
In my opinion, I'm not going to sell Mobley or Jaren Jackson. Those are two guys that I'm just going to definitely hold on to. Same thing with Jalen Suggs. As far as Ayton, Jalen Green, and Max Strus, I would probably consider selling simply because If you're 24, 38, and 1, assuming that's a good bit out of the playoff picture, probably not going to happen this year. And obviously, if you're selling out, like, that's not your goal. Max Strus has been awesome for Cleveland, but I don't think he's necessarily a guy that has a ton of upside. Like, he's, want to say, been a top 75 guy in 9-cat this year, and there's no reason to think that won't continue. Just send him off to a winner. That's probably his ceiling. Jalen Green is a guy that I think I'm just a little bit lower on. Still has a lot of upside, but sometimes it's looked really good. Other times it just hasn't. Like, he didn't play the entire fourth quarter of their game last night against the Spurs. I think that just also had a little bit to do with Tyrese playing really well and Jalen Green not really able to get much offense going. But then again, nobody in that game could get any offense going. I'm still a little bit more willing to sell Jalen Green, especially if there's somebody else in the league that's a little higher on him. And then same thing for DeAndre Ayton. I'm just lower on Ayton. The numbers have looked good in Portland. A lot of that has to do with very high steal numbers. But Zach, I went through one time and just kind of looked at every steal that he's gotten this year and like watched the film on it. And it's unbelievable how many of them are somebody on the opposing team coming off a pick and roll, throwing the ball in the air and it landing right in DeAndre Ayton's hand. It's just like, it blew my mind how many times he's gotten a steal this year by somebody just throwing him the ball. Like, there's been some times he's made some good plays, but it's kind of crazy. So the steals are inflated to me, inflates his value. Of the 6 guys that I've had mentioned, because, well, Chris Livingston and Delano Banton, not really looking to sell them just because you're not getting literally anything, I'd imagine. Maybe a 2043 fifth round pick, depending on your league size. But yeah, among the 6 like legit options, Holding, Jaren Jackson, Jalen Suggs, and Evan Mobley. Probably trying to sell Max Strus, Jalen Green, and DeAndre Ayton. And I think that's the best move at this point.
All right, right on. Thank you for the words of wisdom, as always, on the Dynasty front.
Man.
All right, and another question from Dynasty 215. Is Ja due back after his suspension? Date is coming quickly. Yes, so he is supposed to return on the 19th, and he's actually supposed to be meeting soon with Commissioner Adam Silver. I think they're meeting at a shooting range maybe to have some celebratory beers and go over some paperwork. I'm not sure. Just some rumors that I've heard around the association. Noah, any insight here?
No, apparently your sources are significantly better than mine. But yeah, I think based on, they've played 22 games, 3 more games would be the 25-game suspension. So he's going to return the 19th in New Orleans. But he's been able to practice things like that. Like, he's going to immediately bounce back into the starting unit. And I think things are going to go really, really well for Memphis as soon as he's back. And in my mind, like, Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bane have been fine. Actually really good. Jaren Jackson's block numbers are just down because he's had to focus more on offense. Can't take as many risks on defense to try and block shots because he has to avoid foul trouble because he has to be on the floor. So with Ja back, everything kind of changes for this team. I think that they'll be able to turn it around pretty quickly. I think there's 6 games out of the play-in tournament right now. So it's been ugly overall, like 6-16 at this point, but it wasn't, I don't know, even 6-16 is not so bad that it's just entirely taking them out of the playoff picture, especially if they are as good as they were last year. So yeah, he'll be back December 19th. That is next Tuesday. So next time we do this show will be, actually, I think that you'll be running that one solo, Zach. So you will have the Ja Morant return episode by yourself. So maybe you'll get some of your inside sources on there that kind of told you about where his meeting with Adam Silver is going to be.
I might have to pull Raph into that discussion, man. I don't know if I want to be here. I don't know if I can handle the weight of that solo show.
That's fine.
All right. Moving on. Is Big Mike C for real? Michael Conley, the forgotten man in Minnesota. So currently, he's ranked 62nd in per game fantasy value per Basketball Monster. Digging into the numbers a little bit, 11.4 points, 3.1 rebounds, 6.2 assists, 1 steal, 44% shooting from the field, 94% shooting from the free throw line, but only 1.6 attempts per game, so not really a huge weight there. 1 turnover per game. again, this is another case of we can't just look at this guy's ranked 50th, he's ranked 60th. We got to look at what he's contributing to your fantasy team. So the assists are solid. The 3-pointers are what we expected, a couple per game, 11 points, just a little under 30 minutes. He's never really been an efficient shooter, under 45% here. I think these numbers are certainly sustainable if we're talking about as a guy for real or not. And if you need assists, if you need triples, if you need some of these other things he's bringing, you're not going to get a ton of great counting stats here. But for what he offers, I think these numbers are absolutely something that he can maintain rest of season. What do you think here?
Yeah, I would agree. And obviously the assists are the best thing. The threes have been pretty good. And then the very low turnover numbers for the amount of assists that he has. I don't know what I haven't checked it in a while, but early part of the season, his assist turnover ratio was the best in the league by far.
Yeah.
Because what did he have? Like 1 turnover across his first however many games with 30 assists. So it was like a 30-1 assist turnover ratio. I doubt it's that. I mean, it's not that good now. Now it's 6.2-1 because that's exactly what he's averaging. But I think that's a nice bonus. Just having low turnovers, high assists, it fits well with. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't actually fit that well with many teams. I feel like everybody that wants to win assists kind of knows they're going to lose turnovers, and everybody that's trying to win turnovers knows they're going to lose assists. So it's kind of interesting there. But maybe if you compare him with a guy like Tyrese Halliburton that gets a lot of assists without many turnovers, maybe that works out okay. But yeah, definitely numbers that he can sustain for the rest of the year. And if you're either needing assists or low turnovers, he kind of helps you in both. We'll say it like that. He's able to help for multiple team builds.
All right. From Sunpreet Singh, I have Scoot, Reeves, Wiggins, Jaquez Jr., Capella, Drummond, Schroeder, Poole, Middleton, and I'm assuming this is Uncle Bogey, not Double Bogey. I'm not sure. Who can I drop and keep for rest of season? 9-cat, 10-team, head-to-head. What do you think here? Who are you dropping and who are you keeping? I'm not necessarily – I don't know. I've been advocating for dropping Wiggins for quite a while. Wiggins, to me, is an instant drop. Chris Middleton has been much better as of late, so I don't think he's a drop anymore. I think maybe a few weeks ago we might have considered dropping him, but he has been much better. Jaquez Jr., obviously in a 10-team league, he's been really good, but in a 10-team league, is he necessarily going to be a guy that's your worst player? I don't know. And for an Andre Drummond is somebody that I don't think you have to keep on your fantasy team. It's a guy that plays backup minutes to Nick Vucevic, get you 12 or 15 minutes a game. He's been really good with the rebounding this season. Like, don't get me wrong. But what else is he providing to your fantasy team? So what do you think here, Noah?
Man, so I didn't watch. I watched the end of the Bulls-Bucks game last night, but I was looking through the box score and I saw, okay, wow, Andre Drummond played 14 minutes, 28 seconds, had 16 rebounds and 11 offensive rebounds and shot 3 for 12. And I said, I don't need to watch to see what he did. I know exactly what happened. He shot 3 for 12, Andre Drummond, with 11 offensive rebounds. I watched all the time watching Clint Capella. He sat there, missed layup, offensive rebound, missed layup, offensive rebound. I guarantee it happened at least, I'm going to say 5 of those offensive rebounds were off his own miss. Anyways, yeah, Andre Drummond, not a guy necessarily hold on to. Man, a lot of these guys are guys that had a lot of hype heading into this season and have just been very disappointing, like Jordan Poole, Austin Reeves, Scoot Henderson, who was really good last night, and I'm excited, hoping he can keep that up. Andrew Wiggins. Zach, I know you've been advocating to drop Andrew Wiggins for a while, so you may not have even looked at this number, but like without looking at Basketball Monster, do you know where Andrew Wiggins is ranked right now in 9-cat?
I'm sure it's shifted here over the last maybe few days, but I do the waiver wired column every Friday. And one of the sentences I included in this most recent one was Andrew Wiggins is ranked lower in per game fantasy value than Aaron Wiggins, the backup on the Oklahoma City Thunder. So Andrew was 330 something or other in per game fantasy value, and Aaron was like 310. Am I still far off on that?
It's somehow managed to get worse, and he's now 388 in 9-cat. You know how like on Basketball Monster it has like, you know, red is bad, green is good, and it shows you like which stats you're good at, which stats you're bad at. All of them are red for Andrew Wiggins. He is below league average in every single category. It's not like, oh man, he's really doing bad at X, Y, and Z, but he's still doing okay at these three things, and that's why his value looks bad. He has just been literally bad at everything. Like I just have to make like a public apology to everybody that I told to draft him. But he's on all my teams too, so I'm suffering as well. But oh my gosh, it has been awful. So I saw that earlier while working on my dynasty rankings, and I was like, yeah, like I probably need to drop him, but I haven't, but I need to. Anyways, back to the question. I think Andrew Wiggins is a fine player to drop. Andre Drummond is a guy that you could probably drop. The rest of them, I don't really think you have to drop. Although in a 10-team league, I have to imagine these are a little bit deeper rosters for all of these players to be on your roster at this point. But if that's whether it's Bojan Bogdanovic or Bogdan Bogdanovic, definitely got to hold on. Chris Middleton, like you said, more minutes as of late. That's great. Jaime Jaquez has been really good. I imagine when Tyler Hero comes back that his minutes go down a little bit, which even if he is playing well, you probably don't have to hold him. Yeah, none of these guys are like, I'd say aside from Chris Middleton and Bogey, regardless of which one, none of them are players I'm going to like pound my fist on the table and say, you have to hold on to this guy. But the only ones I'd say like, yeah, feel free to go ahead and drop are Andre Drummond and Andrew Wiggins.
Okay. Moving on from Cal Chad. Cal Chad, what did we just say, man? No more questions until you identify that profile picture here, man. We are not here to answer these questions, but we will answer this one first. All right, you got 2 questions here lined up for us. We'll answer this first one. Let us know. Is this Link from Zelda? Is this Hayden Christensen? Is this somebody from Assassin's Creed? I'm just trying to go through in my head who this might be. All right. Would you rather stream Magic, John Konchar, or Troy Brown rest of week, both putting up top 100 value over the last 7 days? And yes, this John Konchar plays for the Grizzlies, not the Magic, but I am a huge SpongeBob fan, so Magic Conch is.
I picked up what you were putting down.
You did. All right, right on, man. All right, who would you rather stream then, Magic Konchar or Troy Brown? I'm not super interested in Troy B. I think I'd go with Magic Conch. What do you think?
Man. Yeah, I guess. I think Troy Brown Jr. can probably give you some points in threes as long as Anthony Edwards is out. But John Konchar is going to be better all around. And it's just a more reliable part of their rotation, even when everybody's kind of healthy. So, yeah, I think I'm leaning towards John Konchar. It's Troy Brown Jr., if I'm not mistaken. He's had 2 good games as a quote-unquote streaming option, and they were both the game that Anthony Edwards got hurt and couldn't finish out the rest of the game. Troy Brown Jr. finished out both of those really, really well. And then when they actually bumped him into the starting lineup, he didn't do anything. So, yeah, I think John Konchar is probably the guy I'm leaning towards.
Yeah, and Troy Brown, I mean, there's so much limited upside with him. You still have Nickeil Alexander-Walker. You still have Slow-Mo. You still have a talented rotation in Minnesota. And this is a team focused on defense, right? Troy Brown's not going to go out and get you a bunch of buckets and do a whole lot for you across the box score on a nightly basis. So, yeah, I'm leaning towards Konchar. Okay. From Cal Chad. Thank you. Cal, if I'm pronouncing that right, from Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Dynasty Warriors. I cannot say that I'm familiar, but I will have to look that up later. Thank you, sir. All right. Is the Renaissance over for AARP member Eric Gordon with Mr. Beal back in action? Ooh, I don't know. AARP, I love that reference there. What do we think here? is Eric Gordon. Is it time for him to really hit retirement now with Bradley Beal back in action? And remember, you can call him Bradley. Mr. Beal is his father.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I'm probably gonna go ahead and say, yeah, go ahead and drop Eric Gordon. Obviously, we know now, okay, if Bradley Beal misses a game, if Devin Booker misses a game, Eric Gordon is probably gonna be the guy that moves into the starting lineup and ends up giving you some threes, some points. He's been a top 75 guy this year. Actually, Basketball Monster has him right at 75th, mostly because of threes and a pretty efficient play. He's played 32.1 minutes per game this year, which is his highest since his last season with New Orleans in the 2015-2016 season. So, yeah, they've had to give him a lot of minutes with injuries to their star guards. But assuming both are back and both are kind of sticking around, then, yeah, he's probably not going to provide much for fantasy. But when they have to miss a game here and there, I'm ready to stream him.
Totally agree with you there. And yes, AARP, not a bad membership to have. You, at least when my dad used to go in there, you could get a free donut by showing your AARP card. So
that's huge.
At Dunkin' Donuts, yep. So
shout out to Eric Gordon for getting a free donut.
Absolutely, man. All right, especially if you're visiting the Celtics. All right, is Vassell a shutdown candidate? Feels like the Spurs are somehow tanking while they develop their unicorn too. I don't know that they're tanking. I think they're just a really terrible team with a really poor roster. I mean, what do you think here? No, am I missing something here, or is this just as blatantly obvious as it appears? They have Wemby, they have Vassell, and it's just not a good team.
Yeah, I think it seems like without tanking, like Greg Popovich is tinkering with lineups and experimenting with lineups in such a way that prevents them from winning. So, like, seriously, if you look at, I saw this tweet last night, I think it's from a Spurs beat reporter, that the lineup of Trey Jones, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, Victor Wembanyama has played 12 minutes together this year. And I'm pretty sure that's their best lineup. I think, like, without a doubt, I thought it was going to be a lineup that included Zach Collins with either Keldon Johnson or Jeremy Sohan off the bench. It hasn't been. Zach Collins hasn't been as good this year as he was to end of last season. Their best lineup, and one that I think a lot of people would want to see more of, is the five I just mentioned: Trey Jones, Vassell, Keldon, Sohan, Wemby. So it's like we kind of know it's the best lineup. Trey Jones is probably their best point guard. I don't think that's really much of a question. The Sohan experiment was fun, but it's not, I don't think, going to be a long-term thing unless they just keep forcing it. And, hey, maybe it'll work out. But there are things I think that they could be doing to win better, and they just haven't done. So maybe you could say that they're trying to indirectly tank, but I don't really consider him a shutdown candidate. I mean, last year, yes, because he suffered not a major knee injury, but a knee injury, had to have surgery, and they were losing a lot. So there was no reason to kind of rush him back. I don't necessarily think he's a shutdown candidate, but we could probably have a better answer to that in 2 months. Like if they're, like, what are they, 3-18 or 3-19 right now? Like if they're 5 and something else in February, then okay, maybe they'll shut him down. But they also have a young court they want to have learn to play together. So I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say he's a shutdown candidate unless he does suffer some sort of injury.
All right, and for context, the Spurs on a 17-game losing streak. They are doing their best Pistons imitation. The Pistons have lost 20 in a row. And longest NBA losing streaks, I think the record, is it 26 or 27? Okay.
I think it was the Bobcats and the Cavs or something. Like, did it. Like the Cavs team, like the year after LeBron left, I think, did it. And then I think it was also the Bobcats.
So it looks like the Sixers hold the NBA record for losing streak in the 2013-14 season, near the beginning of the process, 26 games in a row in that season, and carried over to the next season. They lost their first 2 games. So 28 overall, 26 in a single season. Woo! So the Pistons are.
I was totally wrong.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, if you're not going to win, might as well make history, right?
People are saying, I think, I don't know if that's necessarily the streak I would want to have, but now I got to look here. Okay, so the Bobcats did 23 straight in 2012. And the Cavs, the year after LeBron left, did 26. It looks like that was the streak until the 76ers did 28. Gotcha. Okay.
All right.
So I need to update my database. I'm still thinking about 2012 for some reason. Yeah.
And shout out to Gerald Wallace, who I assume was on that team. Anytime I hear Bobcats, I think Gerald Wallace. I don't go to Adam Morrison. I think Gerald Wallace. All right. Drop Zach Collins for Hart, Kayla Martin, Keynote, or Scoot. Really strong in assists already. Okay. If you're strong in assists already, and even if you're not, Zach Collins, I think, is a drop candidate. I'm really high on picking up Josh Hart. I said it earlier in the show. I think he's going to continue to see minutes pushing 30 or more, especially with Mitchell Robinson out and this being a tight rotation. He's been trending up as of late anyway. He gets you those out-of-position rebounds. He's a good facilitator. Not a huge scorer, but usually pretty efficient and can knock down triples. Low turnover guy. So I think all of those things combined make him a pretty solid pickup. What are you thinking here, man?
Yeah, I think I'd probably drop Zach Collins for all four of these guys, with Scoot being the last one to add. Even though he was really good last night, I'm expecting him to be able to hopefully compound that into a few more solid games, really pick it up, show why he was the number 3 pick. But Keontae George, you're not probably picking up Keontae Johnson. I'm pretty sure he's in the G League. Keontae George would be a nice boost for assists. I think he had 30 last night, which was his first or like his best scoring game, but mostly been for assists, would be really strong there. Don't necessarily need that, but I prefer him over Zach Collins. Josh Hart or Caleb Martin, would love both of them. Caleb Martin's been awesome. Really slow start to the season, partially because of injuries, and then was just coming off the bench, just wasn't very good. Really picking it up as of late. Definitely a guy that I'd prefer over Zach Collins at this point. I really hope Zach Collins can turn it around, because he was a guy I was high on at the beginning of the year, all summer. But just hasn't happened. So can't really say you still have to hold on to him, because we're almost a month and a half in. It just hasn't happened. So I'm not optimistic that all of a sudden Zach Collins is going to be the guy to turn it around.
All right. From Victor, apologies on the mispronunciation. I imagine. Sweet, I don't know. As you know, Poole's been Really? This is news to me, Victor. Poole has been disappointing this season? No? Anyway, I guess.
Is that what that segment we do is about?
Different points of view, I guess, man. I'm not sure. Punt field goal percentage needs some blocks. Who would you try to send him for? J-Val, Gafford, or would I need to add a +1 to get these guys, given Poole's been this bad? Yeah, that's kind of like trading for Russell Westbrook and having to attach a first-round pick to absorb that awful contract of his. I mean, is this kind of what we're talking about here with Jordan Poole? Is he the Russell Westbrook contract negotiation of fantasy hoops?
Maybe. I think it kind of depends on category need, because obviously Daniel Gafford is a guy that's currently 56 on Basketball Monster, but really gives you good blocks, high field goal percentage, decent rebounds, and that's really it. Like, turnovers, fine. He's a center, doesn't really get turnovers. Jordan Poole's outside the top 200, but gives you obviously more points, more assists, more threes, more steals, better free throw percentage. So he actually helps you in more categories than Dan Gafford does. But because Gafford is really, really strong in a couple categories, significantly higher, this is the pitch you have to make to get this to be a 1-to-1 trade to get Jordan Poole for Daniel Gafford. About how, the category, like the value doesn't line up, but actually Jordan Poole has been better than Daniel Gafford this season. You saw me do that? I just made the pitch. So good luck. He probably is a guy you have to attach somebody else and then do a 2-for-1, in which case I'd probably set my sights a little higher than Valanciunas or Daniel Gafford. But if you could do a 1-to-1, I think I would do both of those.
Fun fact about Noah, he used to go door-to-door selling Hoover vacuums before jumping into the fantasy hoop space. So you just saw some of that pitch work on the fly. This is from a past life of his. I do
Hoover
disagree on this
vacuums?
one. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to spill your secret to.
No. Hoover
Yes.
vacuums, just like, am I just too young to just know that and Hoover vacuums is like a thing? So like, is my age like Cutco knives and Hoover vacuums was like a a generation before me?
Yeah, I think we're both dating ourselves here, man.
Because Cutco knives is what the thing was when I was in like high school, is that people would go, sell knives. Like, that sounds bad, but like Cutco knives are like supposed to be like really good knives you use for cooking, things like that. Anyways, I don't know if you knew what Cutco knives were, or if okay. Anyways, that's what the door-to-door sales thing would have been for me. But no, I was more of a Hoover vacuum guy apparently.
In actuality, my first job out of college was selling Schwann's Food, which is a door-to-door food service. So, for anybody out there that has heard of that, that was my first job. I had numerous accidents that cost the company quite a bit of money, and I moved on to other endeavors. This is a very true story.
Haven't lost NBC much money yet, which is why they allow you on the Q&As.
I'm still working within the margins, man, but I'm getting close to that to that threshold. I do have a different take on this one, though, real quick before we move on to other door-to-door sales pitches. I think maybe making that move 1-for-1 is okay, but in a punt field goal percentage build, Gafford's one of his biggest selling points is the field goal percentage. I don't necessarily know that fits with this guy's build. So I think maybe looking for, if you need some blocks, maybe, I don't know. I'd look for maybe a different big man in that regard. Maybe look for a guy like I don't think you'd be able to get it. Maybe look for a guy like a Jabari Smith who doesn't shoot quite as high a percentage, but can get you some blocks and has been really, really strong with his rebounding over the last couple weeks. Yeah, just spitballing here. Okay. We got time for just a couple more. If the Nets slip further down over the next month, do you think they move Claxton, Simmons, Dinwiddie, O'Neal, Lonnie Walker the fourth quarter, or DSJ? Or do you think they will take it down to the end in what will likely be a pretty tight race in the East? We need to bring Cal Chad here into the NBC writers room, dude. This reads like an article.
It's an epic story. I'm getting ready for the showdown in the East.
Are they taking it down to the end? I mean, this is not a bad team. They were competitive last season. Obviously, I think this season they've defied expectations, based on all the injuries they've been dealing with. But I mean, this is a team that's barely above 500. I wouldn't be surprised if they were sellers at the deadline. You keep that core of Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson. I don't know that they would move Claxton. I think he's a good part of what they do. But if you could get rid of Simmons, Dinwiddie, O'Neal, Lonnie Walker, DSJ, I don't see why they couldn't make a fire sale move and maybe bring in some more talent. I don't see what the harm would be. They kind of remind me of the Washington Wizards of 5 or 6 years ago, where they were just kind of good enough to be in that 5 or 6 spot, but never good enough to be taken seriously for any sort of championship run. Am I off the mark here?
No, not at all. I think above 500 is better than what I was kind of expecting heading into the season. I had them around where they are. They're 9th in the East currently. I don't think being above 500 by the end of the year, I think that'd be pretty good for them. They have so many pieces, and they have a genuinely a really good team. I just feel like they don't have that true superstar that makes them a championship team. Mikal Bridges, I feel like, is probably at best a 1B. Probably most realistic case scenario is that he's a number 2 option on a championship team, but they also have a lot of very solid pieces that I just feel you add one superstar into the mix, and that's a really, really good team that has championship aspirations. So do they sell, or do they try and buy, try and consolidate some of these pieces into a star? I don't know. It'll be interesting to kind of see how it plays out. Maybe they just kind of do what the Bulls did last year and just keep it rolling and just try and see what they can make happen. They see if they can make some noise. The Nets are in an interesting spot, but I think much better than you'd imagine that they would be after moving on from Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving in less than a year. So,
All right. I think we got time for one more question here. Thoughts on Kuminga? Steve Kerr going to give him more run after his last game? He looked good. Uh, ugh, I don't know. I wouldn't roster anybody from Golden State outside of Steph Curry. Maybe if you're in a deeper league, Dario Saric, Brandon Pozemski. But I don't want to roster Klay Thompson. I don't want to roster Andrew Wiggins. I don't want to roster Draymond Green. I don't know. We see a good game from Moses Moody, and then he drops into oblivion. We see Jonathan Kuminga have a good game, and then he plays 5 minutes. I really have no idea what Steve Kerr is doing. If it was me running Golden State, I'd have mixed this lineup up a while ago because everybody but Steph looks washed out in the Bay. But I mean, there's a reason this guy's won 1 million championships, and I'm sitting at home talking about him on my couch. So, what do you think, Noah?
As far as Kuminga, I think if I'm trying to remember correctly, this was what happened. He played the final 17 minutes against Portland last Wednesday, ended up finishing with 13 points, shot 6 of 6, got him more minutes in their last game, played 29 minutes, had 24 points, 12 boards, hit 3 threes. So he played well, and then Steve Kerr said, I'm going to get more minutes. He got more minutes, continued to play well. I think he'll get more minutes. He might be a guy I would consider picking up, but he's not a guy where I'm like, oh my gosh, Jonathan Kuminga's a hot pickup. But I think tonight, if I'm not mistaken, they play. Who do they play? Because it's only a 5-game night. They play the Suns. He might be a guy that I'm looking to stream tonight specifically, and then seeing how he does after that. Just because, one, there's only 5 games, so you're probably going to have a couple lineup spots open. And 2, if he plays well once again, then maybe he's a guy that you really want moving forward. So, yeah, hopefully that it'll be like that moving forward, but it's kind of hard to say because, like you said, Zach, the minutes haven't been consistent game to game. It's kind of like one player does well, and then Steve Kerr moves on to the next hot hand, which makes sense for a coach, but it makes it hard for us to predict for fantasy.
All right, so that'll do it with our questions today. Noah, as you mentioned, you're out next week. You are heading out on vacation with the wife, so I hope you have a wonderful time. The following week, I will be on vacation myself. So the two of us will not be on this show together for 3 more weeks, man. So
till next year.
I know, man. It'll be 2024 before we're back in action, dude. Any parting thoughts here before you take off for next week?
Man, Zach, I guess I got to wish you happy every single holiday. So enjoy your vacation, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year, because I won't probably see your face again until next year.
And same to you, my friend. Yeah, it'll be a long 3 weeks, but it'll make it that much more special when we're back here in 2024, man.
Distance makes the heart grow fonder as well.
All right. Oh, you know what? And I'm going to go ahead and give this 100% vote of confidence. I will be sad, but this means more wrath action. So not too sad. 100% agreed. Anytime we can get more Raphael Johnson on camera, it is not a bad day at NBC Sports. So yes, thank you, Cal Chad. That is 100% true. I will try to get Raph on for next week, and no, I'm assuming he'll be on with you the day after Christmas.
Yeah, we'll see if I can book him. I know he's usually pretty booked up with these shows. We just lucky to get him here every once in a while. But I know he also is doing the Rotoworld basketball show. I think that's what it's called on Fridays with Vaughn and Dan Titus. So make sure to check that out as well. But Zach, I think that's about all I've got for this last Q&A with the both of us for 2023.
Let's wrap it up, man. It has been a blast. Enjoy your time off, man. I will talk to you again in a few weeks. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you. See you, Zach.